Very happy one more time got the opportunity to be with the dear brothers and sisters of Ahlulbayt Islamic Society of New England and Zikr Mighty Shia Muslim Association. As Dr. Masalai said, this is the second lecture of two lecture series about the events after Ashura. The last 2 weeks ago, last lecture, we talked about the movement of Tawwabin, the penitents. This time we will briefly look to the movement of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. And so I will, for blessing, and I will start with these verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضيا مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي قل إنما أعظكم بواحدة أن تقوموا لله مثنى وفرادى. This painting, which I have the first page, the title page, again is a decorated tile, and it's the same one, the same place we had it last week, is that Takiya Ma'aben al-Mulk in Kermanshah. And then you can clearly see there are some hints of the Mukhtar, says for sitting on the throne by the Mukhtar and the punishing the perpetrators of the Karbala and all these kind of drawing. Just want to pay attention to it. As it said, this is the lecture today, and then that's kind of the detailed description. We have an abstract. I think you guys have read it, so I'm not going to read it, but it's kind of the summary what I want to discuss. Today, I will be relying on two encyclopedia articles. Mostly, one is the Encyclopedia of Star 3, which is written by Najm Haidar, which is a university professor of Columbia University, so relatively close, New York, and he's, I think, Zaidi Shia. He's Shia, and then he's younger, and then the other one is G.R. Hotting with the same title, but in the previous edition, and then I forgot which university Gerald Harting was the professor. So Harting has a little bit more Western secular, or maybe sometimes suspicious, or of the documents. Najm Haidar is academic, but okay, more positive outlook. So kind of they're not that different, but and then some of it is pure history. So we kind of rely on that, and then some of their interpretation can be helpful. The sources are more or less similar, but a little bit this time maybe extended. Actually, regarding the Mukhtar, there are much more details known because he established a government. He was in Kufa. Many people know him. So again, as always, this Tabari, which is very long. Balazuri, Tabari is more neutral and sympathetic, we can say at least. Balazuri is more Sunni view, okay, a little bit hostile bias against. And Ibn Isam Kufi is Shi'i and also Kufi, and more detailed. So, kind of the three sources. We have middle, right, left, everything kind of, the sources are there, but more or less they overlap. The details of history, they overlap. The interpretation or which side is good or bad. But although there are complications, there are some reports because this was an important event, and then you got, as we see, a triangle between Umayyad, Zubayrids, and Mukhtar, and she's kind of with Mukhtar, and then kind of smear campaign is strong against him because he was the first, maybe he was defeated or martyred before the other two, and then Zubayrids were defeated by the Umayyads, Marwanids, and so that's the case. And this picture, I was talking about Kufa, is I cannot avoid it. Look, 1915, this was left from Kufa, or that was Kufa, and now it's really big city around it. And then is the mosque and the Darul Imara, and then some of the shrines of the martyrs, Muslim ibn Aqil, other ones. When you go to Najaf or Kufa, you can identify these, but this picture is, I don't know, some mysteriousness, is all desert, and then Najaf is close, but kind of Kufa, it seems, was deserted, and then these parts is survived, and that's it. This could be the burial place of May Summit Anwar. I know Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but when you go over there, I know there is a walking distance from the mosque to there. But this is interesting, inshallah. We can all visit it again or the first time. Now, I look, there are this is large topic, and especially maybe things come off out of these movements. The consequences are important. And there are some controversial issues or some issues. We don't have time to go through that. So I decided to go a relative more thorough, detailed saying or narration of what happened. And then hopefully if we find another lecture or you want to read further, we start from there. So that's kind of at the end I decide. So I prefer to do something more in detail than going to a larger area. So kind of I know some of the details maybe not necessary, but I think some of it give you a better taste. So we start who was Mukhtar, so his full name is Al-Mukhtar Abi Ubayd ibn Mas'ud al-Thaqafi, and then they add Kufi to his, this full name. So he's from the tribe of Sabif, which is a very important tribe. It was the main base of that tribe was in the city of Taif. And Taif was the third city, important city in Hijaz. Very often we discuss Hijaz, we remember Mecca and Medina, we forgot Taif, we forget Taif, and Taif is the important one. Taif is crucial one. It was a kind of, Quraysh in the summer when the weather was warm, the wealthy people in Quraysh go to Taif because Taif was mountainous, and even nowadays is more green. Uh, there are places wine is growing, stuff like that. Much, much better weather. So they used to go over there. It's not that far, 90 kilometers, I think, southeast of Mecca. And so there was relationship between two tribe of Quraysh and Sabif. And then on out of the, each of them also worship one of those three daughters of God. Manat, I think, was worshipped by Saqif and Uzza by Mecca. And anyway, the other thing is important. After Islam, Saqif, rulers, caliphs are from Quraysh, but Saqif sometimes very often appear as governors, commanders. So the Quraysh feel more comfortable with them, they know them, and they kind of make an alliance with Quraysh. So you see their name. And then important character, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, that's a guy which is very cruel ruler of Kufa after this period with his guys. And Mughir ibn Shubah, which is the one who proposed Yazid to be the successor of Muawiyah, is a very colorful, very tricky guy. Even Ziyad ibn Ziyad himself, or his father Ziyad ibn Abi, the nominal father, not the actual biological father, the nominal father and the mother were residing again, there was Sagafi. And then his tribe, even interestingly, I think we have people still with the last name of Sagafi, so it's an important tribe. So Mukhtar was born in Ta'if, and it says they say the first year of Hijrah. It could be maybe a little bit later, but not much. And then they moved to Medina during the caliphate of Umar. So somewhere Omar was caliph between 12 to 23, but must be early because his father was died in the so-called Battle of Bridge, one of the early battles of conquest of Iran. So his father died during the Battle of Bridge in they say he went on the feet of an elephant from Iranian army. Okay, but anyway, he died at the year after 13 after Hijrah. So Mukhtar at most is 12, 13 years old, maybe a little younger. And then as a result, he's raised by his uncle, Sa'd ibn Mas'ud, which he must have died after Imam Ali because we know at the time of Imam Hassan and when Imam Hassan army is going against Muawiyah after the martyrdom of Ali, he is still governor of Madain. Imam Ali put him as the governor of Madain, and he was there after Imam Ali. And Imam Hassan, after was injured, was resided in his house. Imam Hassan was kind of um one assassin from Khawarij wanted to martyr Imam Hassan, and then he kind of hit Imam Hassan with his dagger to his thigh, injured Imam Hassan, and then Imam Hassan went to uncles of Mukhtar's house. This is known. And then Madain, is more a far Irani city. It was the capital of Sasani, so lots of Iranians, Mawalis are there. There is a story very famous. Everybody repeats that. I doubt it's true, but anyway, it can be true that during this period, which Mukhtar, which is young, but is not that young, it must be 39, 40 years old, coming to his uncle and says, like, let's, this Imam Hassan is injured, so let's arrest him and handed him to the Umayyads, because they felt the war is changing side. Muawiyah has the upper hand. But I really doubt Mukhtar does that, because by 40 years old, you have been shaved, and then his actions later on shows he's a strong Shiitized. And then the whole family has a very good connection with Bani Hashim. Look, the whole family, usually Saqifs are not necessarily with Bani Hashim, they're very connected with Umayyads, but this branch of Saqif had good connection with Bani Hashim, and then Imam Ali had put them as governor, put his uncle as governor. At this, the story says his uncle is strongly rebuking for proposing such a blatant betrayal of the Prophet's family. So some people want to claim this is the cause of Mukhtar attraction to Prophet family. But I think this is a caricature, and they want to say he was wayward, he was opportunist, he was not sincere. I don't know. I don't believe this, but everybody repeats it. And every source of good supporting against Mukhtar, but I doubt it. And then, as we see, I'm going to give you two other interesting examples. This incident stands in stark contrast to al-Mukhtar's later espousal of allied claims against the Umayyads. Okay, one of the things we have in some history book mentions, so we want to see when Mukhtar is mentioned, when we have trace of history, is this. About 10 years after this incident, the incident we just said that he told his uncle, let's hand Imam Hassan to Muawiyah, is about year 40, 41. Imam Hassan is martyred at year 50 after Hijrah. Just after martyring Imam Hassan, Muawiyah feel free to go against the companions, the prominent companions of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and chief of them, among them Hujr ibn Adi. There are 4 or 5 of them they have targeted, were die-hard, very hardline, very strong supporter of Imam Ali, and he martyred a couple of them. And one of them is Hujr ibn Adi, but they have to make a case against him. And then they have to make it from Kufa, and they started with Ziyad ibn Abi, the father of Ibn Ziyad, to make a case, and they want people testify against Hujr ibn Adi. They asked Mukhtar to testify. He didn't. So at least this is the first record. He's not cooperating, supporting Umayyads. And the other one, which is much, much more important, is this. It seems he has a very important role in when the time Muslim ibn Aqil comes to Kufa, So when Imam Hussein sent Muslim ibn Aqil to Kufa to see what things are, how things are there, how much Kufan are serious in the letters they wrote, and what's going on, it's some reports say, okay, he stayed at the Mukhtar's house. At different stages, maybe he stayed at different people's houses, because at the early stages, we know he stayed with at Haniyat ibn Urwa house, and that's the place actually Ibn Ziyad come visit Hani without knowing that Muslim Ahmed is there. But at some stages, maybe he stayed with Mukhtar. But the point is this. It seems this is the latter stage, and fourth, because gradually things were, Ibn Ziyad kind of discovered their location and were already acting against Muslim, they have to come out earlier than planned. It seems during those days that kind of Muslim Akhir uprised. Mukhtar is not in the Kufa. So, it's very fast. They say in the morning there are few thousand or maybe 80,000 people bayat with Muslim, the few thousand coming out to supporting him armed to go against the Dar al-Khulafa and Ibn Ziyad or capturing the city. But, by the end of the night, he's really alone, kind of something like that. In a short period, things change. And I think that during that couple of days, it seems Mukhtar is not in Kufa. It is not. And why it is not, a little bit is not clear, but maybe he's going to his estate outside of the Kufa. Al-Mukhtar was reportedly away during the period of uprising a Muslim and capture and martyrdom and returned to find Ibn Ziyad is firm control of the city. The reason for his absence are unclear. Most probably he was away, as it states, at Khotarnia. Um, and then the reason this happened is that because maybe they had planned to do it later, a few days later. So Mukhtar said, okay, maybe I go. Meanwhile, he goes over there or maybe check something. I don't know. But Muslim came out in revolt earlier than had previously been agreed upon. But when Mukhtar came back, because Ibn Ziyad he knew something about the connection, despite Mukhtar denied it, any connection with the Muslim, at least the sources right, Ibn Ziyad arrested him, put him in prison, and before even this happens, they have very strong confrontation. And then he kind of blow an eye, something in Mukhtar's eye, so injured Mukhtar by the eye and put Mukhtar in the prison. So and then so it happens during the whole event of Ashura. Mukhtar is in the prison. So he was out with Muslim uprising and the things changed. He came back, noticed Ibn Ziyad is a firm control. Ibn Ziyad immediately arrest him, put him in prison because he's worried about Hussein coming uprising. Mukhtar was an instigator or connector. And then during the whole events of Ashura, which takes about, a while, I think Muslim, martyred in Zihajj and the events of Karbala have 8 or 9 of Dhul-Hijjah. So event of Karbala, 10th of Muharram, you're talking about 1 month. So around this time he's arrested and he's in prison, the whole event of Ashura. And then he's released after the event of Karbala kind of uh, events passed. And it is released by instigation of Abdullah Umar. Uh, Mukhtar's wife and Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah son of this Umar, the second caliph, were sisters. So in Farsi, they were Bajanab. And then I think by that instigation, by request of Abdullah Umar from Yazid, and then things were settled down. Yazid wrote to Ibn Ziyad to release Mukhtar. So Mukhtar is kind of absent in the whole event of Ashura. Immediately after release, he went to Mecca. And I think it takes a while to be released. It's not, for example, I don't have the date when he was released, but maybe a while he's in prison. And then when they're sure things are settled, so releasing him. But he moved to Mecca and kind of joined Zubair, Abdullah ibn Zubair, the other character, which is in Mecca, and then kind of around the last, as we said, around the last year of the rule of Yazid with the uprising of people in Medina, he did his uprising in Mecca, and then Yazid sent his army to. First, they defeated people in Medina and killed and massacred many people. They went toward Mecca. They burned the Kaaba, by catapulting and stuff like that. And then just they went nearer to conquering Mecca. The news came Yazid has died, so the army left back. But during that period, or some Mukhtar has joined Zubair. And during those time, he met with Abdullah ibn Abbas, the cousin of Imam Ali, cousin of Prophet, the son of Abbas, the uncle of Prophet, the ancestor of Abbasid, and very important scholar in Sunni Islam. He also met and talked with Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya, the other son of Imam Ali, not from Hazrat Fatima Zahra salam alayha, from his wife from Hanafiya tribe, and these two usually resided in Mecca. Most other prominent people usually resided in Medina, but Abdullah ibn Abbas and Muhammad Hanafiya mostly lived in Mecca. And then it says he met with Imam Zain al-Abidin too. Um, Definitely he had tried to meet. I'm not sure whether he met in Mecca or met in Medina, but it seems he has met. But that's the main theme, that Imam Zain al-Abidin completely avoided any involvement in social political activism, apparently, or actually devoting his time only prayer or more on religious matters and avoiding any public social activity. Uh, Mukhtar did bay'ah, swore allegiance to Ibn Zubayr, and as we said, participated in defense of Mecca against the advancing Umayyad army led by Hussein ibn Numayr. So this is okay, after a while now, actually, this is yeah, this is this period, and then so still Yazid in power, and then it is said he's fought to have it is said he really fought bravely in this war. His people recorded he's really is good military commander prominently. But it seems something happened between him and Zubair. At least the sources may be right. He was angered that because Zubair is not willing him to really get really serious position, serious appointment, let him in charge of something serious. He left Zubair and returned to Kufa, which he was hearing something's happening in Kufa too. You know what, that Tawwabin movement and unrest over there had spread to there too. And but again, always many things that guide Mukhtar, the sources sometimes are contradictory. Maybe Mukhtar wants to escape from Zubair, and instead of very clearly stating his disagreement, maybe persuade him, okay, why I'm leaving Mecca is to go get recruit for you and see how Kufa's things going. Although Kufa technically was in control of Zubair. It was, we see the governor, now it wasn't now in the control of Umayyads. Now the governor of Zubairids from Mecca were ruling, not the governor from Damascus. The governor is not from Damascus, which kind of cited the situation in the previous lecture. Because there are some ambiguities that some people say even he entered Kufa. Some people thought he's coming over there on the behalf of Zubair. Maybe this was his cover up, or maybe he was looking uh, to not alienate different groups. He wants to attract as much as he can, because one of his feature is this: is very inclusive. He tried to include and use anyone he can use for the cause, and then that we'll see he's at least his general tendency. So look, under this idea that maybe he has gone there on the behalf of Zubair, I think is unlikely, and then the authors also think is unlikely. But it is credible that Al-Mukhtar would have tried to win support from as many quarters as possible, and for as long as possible, narrowing his option very necessary. So he had, contrary to Tawwabin, which very pure, they want to focus on the goal. They don't want any ambition, political ambition coming in, any worldly gain. So they vet people very strongly. Mukhtar is reverse. Is try to open up base. But I think at this stage, really, there is a separation and rift between him and Zubair, and completely separated from that group. Now, as we saw it last time, Kufa here is at this time, which Mukhtar is coming back now, it seems, is Ramazan of 64. April, May 1684 is, it's getting a little bit agitated. People, activities happening, especially Tawwabin is ready to go out. Sulaiman al-Kharat is active. And Mukhtar wants to compete with them, and he introduced an idea which is that's is one of the most controversial one. We will see that more a little bit later because at this stage, Mukhtar is not very important, not attracting many people, not getting much traction. But it seems he claimed I'm sent by uh, the Mahdi or Imam, and then he's very here is a little bit used it ambiguously, and some sources even maybe mistaking it because I think his emphasis is mostly on Mahdi. But the point is this: he later on, not even at this early stage, he cannot get the support by Imam Zain al-Abidin. Uh, in no way. And that's a little bit setback for him. He wants some credibility. He has to claim I'm acting on behalf of some imam or some legitimate person. So here he wants to Muhammad Hanafiya. Muhammad Hanafiya is silent. Is the answers are ambiguous, or sometimes his silence is considered or interpreted as satisfaction. The fact you don't object, okay, we can take it as agreement. And then here, you see, this is one of the controversies because Imam, it should be to the line of the children of Prophet through Hazrat Fatima. That's the crucial thing, and always has been. And then you were seeing all the speeches, slogans, poems that prior to this time, always the importance, for example, for Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, the imams of Karbala, Tawwabin, is that they're grandchildren of Prophet. Their lineage through Prophet was emphasized, not necessarily Imam Ali itself or Imam Ali separate or distinct from Prophet. Muhammad Hanafi has no uh, kind of lineage to the Prophet. And although he's child of Imam Ali, brother or half brother of Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, uh, this is an important issue. Maybe I will explain it here, but then later on when you see the examples, reinforce it. Uh, this is new. This is a change. This is maybe not accepted by Shias nowadays or then because this is changing. You produce, and then that's the start of those schism in the history of Shia, different branches, different imama. Although later all the imams of these are on the lineage of Hazrat Fatima. But so for example, if Ismail you're talking or anybody else. And but even Mukhtar is not clear. He's using the word Imam. Although this slide, I have Imam the Mahdi, which is combining it. But most other slides, he vague it. It's as other sources. He uses it vaguely. Mostly call it Mahdi. And what exactly he means by Mahdi? This word Mahdi is used by Tawwabin too. Is it literally means just the guided one? Somebody is guided by God, which is somewhat as the meaning Imam, but not official title, or it is referring to the savior of the end of times. When we call Imam Mahdi nowadays, the last Imam, which will bring justice at the end of times. I think that you see there are many studies that messianic anticipations were on the rise, and it's not only among Mukhtar group. You see it in Zobeiris too. So kind of people would understood it that way, not the literal meaning of Mahdi of the guided person. He is guided, but is the one who, the promised one, the one Messiah, the one that brings justice. And I think, here we have Western scholars and Sunnis and other ones. Sunnis accept Mahdi, but some Western scholars says, okay, the concept Mahdi was generated here, produced here from Mukhtar movement. But my opinion is this: Imam Ali, and we have lots of hadiths. One of the person that promoted the idea of Mahdi, emphasized on it, I want to establish it, is Imam Ali. And then you have huge book, 400, 500 pages. I mean, I see a collection of books, the sayings of Imam Ali regarding Hazrat Mahdi. I mean, maybe not all authentic. I think Imam Ali used that 5 years, which he was ruling, going to the wars, camps, stopping, going there, to talk about Imam Mahdi. And so this concept of Mahdi is very well and understood and familiar with the people in Kufa and Iran. And even every side have heard it. You know, many of the tribes were fighting with either fighting for Imam Ali or against Imam Ali. People Jama, Safain, Nahrawan. So even Umayyad, some heard about it, Sufyani and Zubayri heard about it. So the concept of Mahdi, the anticipation, the idea was on the board. And then some people, everybody maybe want to claim for themselves. You see in Umayyads, also the people want to claim that title for themselves. So that this idea gets currency because our family people are familiar with it and anticipating it. But also, why this confusion and whatnot, clarity of religious understanding? I think part of it comes first in Karbala, some of the followers of Imam Hussein that passed away, martyred. And then with Tawwabin, few thousand more, especially the elderly, especially the companion, the one, the Shia, which more directly connected to the Imam Ali and to the Prophet, and especially many of the scholarly, because this Tawwabin were known as Qurra. So many of those are martyred and not there. And then we'll see in the Kufa, we are, and then we'll see more in the Mukhtar movement. Mukhtar opened it up, and many of the Mawali, non-Arabs, will join his movement. Many other people from Kufan tribes, which some of them come from very remote places, were not educated, they're latecomers. You know, many of these tension in the Kufa was the waves of migration. We have the first group, which are the conquerors of Iran. They settled on Kufa, but then later on, other people, other tribes coming because it's prosperous, agriculturally is a very good city and so on. So they're not very knowledgeable about the details of religion. And then for them, the big person, the person which was aspiring, the person which they saw, the person who walked in the bazaars, the person they fought with him, alongside with him, is Imam Ali. His charisma, his attraction. And then many of them, they have some ideas of maybe old Persian, old Christian, old ideas of monarchical rule, or maybe the Persian idea of Farrah Izadi. So if Ali is blessed, his children are blessed. And then male dominance, you know, I mean, so maybe they didn't much understood some of these of the importance of Hazrat Fatima. So they thought being the son of Imam Ali is important. But we are these are all complicated. Who thinks what? You know, if whether Muhammad Hanafiya really thought himself as a Mahdi, or just they thought, okay, that gives some legitimacy to Mukhtar, not too much, not too little, not too much. Maybe he be active. Maybe his movement has some good outcome, which it did in some levels. So this is the most controversial one, and even till nowadays, it is a controversial one because it's the first split in Shiism coming out of it, the branch we call Kaysani coming out of it, and then some of the extreme groups of Shia again coming out of it, out of this Kaysani, so they got to extreme views. But you know the it happened few times history of Shia when large number of people were directly exposed to imams, talk to the imams, see the imams, then sometimes some extreme ideas develop respect to them, like Imam Ali, you know, divinity of Imam Ali, you know, the Ghalis in Shiism, which kind of consider divinity from Imam Ali. We have some groups have the same claim regarding Imam Sadiq. So it's complicated. So the point for now, I think, Mukhtar, I think, keep it vaguely and avoiding the use and word Imam, although I have this slide Imam the Mahdi, but I think he emphasized more on the word Mahdi And then I think he can play on it. Okay, I'm not saying he's Imam, but he's a Mahdi and he's a guided one. But in what sense Mahdi? Is he uh, the promised one, the one he's going to establish justice? Because this messianic themes, and they hope that with Imam Ali they would establish because many of those joining Imam Ali, they were not satisfied. They were dissatisfied what happened the third caliph, and then they really have have uh, huge big hopes on Imam Ali's success. And when he martyred kind of unexpectedly, it was shock for them. One of them, for example, is Abdullah ibn Sabah. You know, that these are stories are also mixed, and we don't have time to go through that. So I kind of set the background. Maybe the later slides you can see when we touch the shoe, and you see is a trend which all the way through the whole discussion is the controversy. But I have to go a little bit faster because really we need to go through it. So look, at the time Mukhtar came here, there were two emirs ruling the city, which Zubair had put them over there, one in charge of military, one in charge of finance. And then the Ashraf of Kufa, which the leader of the tribe, the aristocrats, the wealthy people, uh, and then some of these have, despite calling Imam Hussein, they were involved in the Karbala. They heard that Mukhtar is inviting people to himself, and then definitely they heard, and definitely Mukhtar has said that, okay, part of his movement to revenge Imam Hussein, they feel uncomfortable from him. They feel more uncomfortable from him to Tawwabin. Because Tawwabin, as we saw, Sulaiman ibn Surat said, look, if we go inside Kufa, we get to split the city. We cannot do anything because many of the people in the Kufa were also themselves involved in martyrdom. Imam was saying, let's go out, let's go focus on Yazid. But Mukhtar was different. He wants to capture the Kufa, he wants to establish government. So they were kind of hearing some rumors from Mukhtar's activity. They were not happy about him, and then telling the two governors, okay, arrest him. And then again, Mukhtar once more time arrest and put in prison. Uh, but again, Mukhtar is released again by intermediary of Abdullah ibn Umar and persuaded the two emirs to releasing him. Uh, but this time the prison wasn't as hard or serious, but still they released him. At the time he was released is a good time again. He was, it seems, in prison when the actual Tawwabin battle at Ain al-Warda martyrdom happened. Although he would not have joined them, he was kind of competing with them. We saw 2,000 people from Tawwabin join him. So, but again, he was in prison, and then again when Tawwabin was defeated, what is left of them, what is a few 1,000 or maybe something left from them, or the rest which didn't join them actually in the battle, because remember there were 16,000 people initially, but only 4,000 appear in the place of gathering, and out of that 4,000, only at the one day later, only 3,000 left. So 3,000 martyred. I mean, at least two-thirds of them, I think, martyred. But the remaining which returned, and the early 16,000 coming back, again, this is exactly the time he came out of prison and started to activity. Uh, so, um, and then during this period, Ibn Ziyad also was maybe Ibn Zubayr, because of the events, and then some other reason changed the governor of the city, the governor of Kufa, because of maybe, I mean, the events going on, the wars with the Umayyads, which they anticipated, and they send a new governor, which is Abdullah ibn Muti, this is the one which is kind of Mukhtar confronting him. And then this Abdullah ibn Muti would come to the city when they do khutbah prayer. He kind of start to see confrontations, for example, he start to say, I'm going to follow the Sunnah, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Usman. People confronting him, okay, what about the seerah of Imam Ali? So, although he's Zubayrid, it's not Umayyad, but, again, he doesn't mention Imam Ali. And then all of these also produce some dissatisfaction in Kufa, which helped Mukhtar to recruit. And again, this Ashraf get worried now, telling this new governor put Mukhtar in prison. But this time, uh, this guy, I think, didn't want to confront Mukhtar. Mukhtar said, I'm sick, I cannot come visit you. So he avoided going to the prison. Uh, and then again, he's more active, he's recruiting, he's successful in recruiting, and it seems he's more emphasizing that I am sent by Muhammad al-Hanafiyya. And it seems he's using the word Amin and Wazir. I mean, again, a little bit vague where he really get start to emphasize this, because even we saw maybe even before the Tawwabin uprising, but at some stage he's doing this and strongly doing it, publicly doing it, and is really is kind of the important recruiting tool. And then it is such a level that some of his supporters stop doubting him, and then they send a delegate to go to Mecca and see Hanafiya, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. The answer of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya again is vague, and it's such a way that um, because you see, the doubters are satisfied. So he doesn't disown completely Mukhtar. I mean, we don't know. Is it plot? Is it the agreement imams? Is it they have done it such a way that, okay, the authorities cannot accuse them they're really involved? It could be. It could be, this is even agreement with Imam Zain al-Abidin, the plan. Somehow give some very faint legitimacy to Mukhtar movement and see what he can do, but not too much because the whole Shia, because the situation with Imam Zain al-Abidin is very, it's not good. We don't have many Shias left, because the other side of this, you see, I cannot say this is necessarily with the agreement of Imam, because this has produced theological confusion. Because at the time of Mukhtar movement and after his passing away martyrdom, if you call some group Shia, the majority of the Shia are not the ones who believe Imam Zain al-Abidin. The majority of the number of Shia grew because of the Mukhtar movement, because I mean, that's the question whether you want to call them Shia, but usually people call them Shia. And then these Shia are mostly believe Imamat of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, especially after Mukhtar. And then we have the Kaysaniya. And Kaysaniya for a while was larger than Imamiyya. We have the same situation, different periods. Sometimes Zaydiyya is bigger for a while. Centuries later, Ismailiyya was much bigger. And then gradually, okay, Shia Imamiyya, it becomes the bigger branch of Shia Islam. So you see, is not easy. I think there is point of research, but I'm saying it's not easy because there are people deliberately mudding it, and then is a fog of all nobody knows, because even you see the friends of Mukhtar or support of Mukhtar doubting him. But anyway, the answers or the way Muhammad and Hafi answered, at least they felt he's not dissociating Mukhtar. They satisfied. And then even some reporters, I'm not sure how accurate they are, they say Mukhtar wasn't himself sure how Muhammad Hanafiya would reply, and he was worried Muhammad Hanafiya would disown him or completely uh, throw him off this plan, and then okay, things wouldn't be easy for him after that. But it didn't happen. And but all of these again can it's make it whether this are some way putting a negative image on, I mean, on Mukhtar. I'm not sure how much are accurate, but these are there. You have to work with these historic books, and these are you have to confront every time you read Mukhtar's uh, history. But Mukhtar, after this event, which that some of the followers went and checked Muhammad al-Hanafiya, and Muhammad al-Hanafiya doesn't disown him, and kind of appearing, confirming the veracity of his claim that he's Amir and Wazir of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, uh, kind of get more energized. And then he start to really calling to the people to obey this, the book of God, a sunnah of the Prophet, which in some sense he doesn't need to add the sunnah Imam Ali, because the whole idea is sunnah Imam Ali, sunnah Prophet, and also but adding appeal to vengeance of the Imam Hussein and other murders of Imam Ali's family. So he promised we do that, we take the revenge. And then at this stage, one important thing happened, which really helped the success of Mukhtar is the joining Ibrahim ibn Ashtar al-Nakha'i, son of the Malik Ashtar. He's the leader also of the important tribe of Hamdan, which is Husis of Yemen, also are today's Yemen, are from that tribe. Again, it seems Ibrahim ibn Ashtar has doubt, but again, how much these reports, which are almost a little bit put a negative image on Mukhtar, that he's a little bit shady, tricky, we can trust. But the story is that Ibrahim ibn Ashtar had some doubts. Really, Mukhtar has legitimacy. His representative, Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya, and as Amin al-Wazir. But then it seems they say Mukhtar showed him a letter. Okay, the letter allegedly, or at least Mukhtar pretended this is a letter written to him by Muhammad al-Hanafiyya. But then other people say, no, it wasn't written by Muhammad al-Hanafiyya. And some of these historians, we have to be careful, Sunni historians are there too. They say, okay, Ibn Ashtar noticed or himself doubt maybe that that is true, but it started to give the benefit of the doubt, or at least act, he thinks it is true. But again, I was looking today, look, the story, I'll have twists and twists. And regarding this letter, which it seems shown by Mukhtar to Ibrahim ibn Ashtar, which is allegedly written by Ibn Hanafiyya, a number of Mukhtar leading supporters testified an oath to the authenticity of the letter. So there are supporters which really swear and is correct. But then Amir ibn Shabi, okay, I will tell you who's cited by Abi Makhna for this episode, did not testify. So there is a guy which narrate this story, and then Abi Makhnaf narrate the story from him. He didn't testify. But the problem with this Amir ibn Shabi is he's very, very tricky, shady, colorful, or role-playing, going from this side, that side of guy. He actually is apparently Shia, apparently have Shia tendencies, like, for example, this clergy, which have recently in Texas met, with some pro-Israeli groups. This guy is a survivor and works later on with Umayyad, make money, but he's a scholar and he's a judge. And he has, as very recent scholarship shown, that he has some role in mixing or confusing or muddying some of the Shia historical things. And he's very important in the story of Kufa. So he could be, the fact that he doesn't testify, which many people took the letter is not authentic. Actually, if it's anybody else, maybe I said, okay, maybe not. But because it's this guy, I'm not sure the letter is not authentic. And I'm not sure, maybe Muhammad al-Hanafi hasn't wrote a letter. But anyway, no matter what it is, Ibrahim ibn Ashtar accepted it is really a letter for Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya. But the whole question is that why Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya, Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya, why has a role? He's the son of Imam Ali, he was in Jang Jamal. There is letter to him in Nahj Balagha. But you see, I think they're desperately looking for somebody. Because Imam Zayn al-Abidin, so they were not patient, they don't want to wait longer, they want to fight Umayyads. And I'm saying maybe it was the agreed policy that Imam Zayn al-Abidin to save Imam, to save teaching, because they knew this wouldn't go. I mean, the people are mostly fighting for worldly gains. Maybe let's at least some legitimacy be given through Muhammad Hanafiya. But the other side, many people criticize because this produced problems. This produced theological confusion. This produces. I mean, now these are resolved, but for a long time, this Kaysaniya was much, much bigger than Shia. So anyway, that's a complicated story. I have to go faster. I want to finish it. So they decided, Ibrahim Ashtar is a big joining. It's huge. It's like his father. And then they had the plan to have the revolt in Muharram 66, but then they postponed it to Rabi, So like kind of the situation, we are still not reached Rabi, but they have a set date to do it 14 of Rabi. But then by some accident, the plan was being discovered, and Ibrahim Ashtar in Kufa have to react, and he has to kill the leader of the Shurta, the police, the security of Kufa. His name was Ibn Muti. Sorry, Ibn Muti short, yes, Ibn Mudar. And then because of that, the plan has discovered they have to rebuild. And then interestingly, they start the two slogans. One is the vengeance for al-Hussein, Ya la Sarat al-Hussein is the classic slogan. And then they use another slogan, Ya Mansur Amat, the one who giving support or helping kill or something like that, moat, kill the enemy. This first slogan, the green one, was used by Tawwabin, and now is used in our mosques too. The second one was used by that branch of Shia Islam, which came from, this movement, become Kaysaniya, the follower of Muhammad al-Hanafiyya. Sometimes they call them Hashemiyya, not from Bani Hashim, from Abu Hashim, the sign of Muhammad al-Hanafiyya. And this group was responsible for toppling of the Umayyads at the end and bringing Abbasi to power. So you see that, so the two slogans have historical thing. This green one is still with us, and the red one was used by like people Abu Muslim, Khorasani, or other ones for toppling Umayyads. Uh, so as he said, the last phrase was subsequently to be used by the Hashemiyya. The Hashemiyya, the group, the movement, which coming the Mukhtar movement from out of Kaysaniya, the name after the son of Muhammad al-Hanafiyya. They thought he's their Imam. Soon from Mahdi, he become Imam. And then, but that movement was a movement Abbasi joined, and then that movement at the end was with Abu Muslim was responsible for toppling Umayyads. Uh, so, so the fight started, and Ashtar had to fight. And then you will see there are two important commanders that governor of Kufa, which Ibn Ziyad sent, Ibn Muti had. One is Shabas ibn Rabi, and then one Rashid ibn Iyas ibn Mudarrib al-Abak. This Shabas ibn Rabi is a little bit explained, is interesting. He's among the ones who wrote a letter to Imam Hussein, come to Kufa. And then when Imam Hussein came, he didn't join. Not only he didn't join supporting him, but pushed or forced by Ibn Ziyad go to Karbala. He didn't want to go, but Ibn Ziyad noticed he doesn't want to go. But because he was of an important tribe of Tamim, these are stories. Hor was also from there too. He forced him to go, but not only he went, he get the commandership of the one of the wings or sections of Ibn Sa'd army. It seems he has tried to not really participate in the fight, but he still was commander. And then he's one of the Ashraf and coming back, and then kind of he's among the leaders here, which opposing Mukhtar. And then from now on, you will see his name a few times. Uh, but during this early battle, Ibrahim ibn Ashtar and Mukhtar were successful to kill this other Rashid ibn Iyas. They were able to kill one of the other commanders, Nashabas ibn Rabi, and then this became a turning point. Uh, the the names in the history books, the names which are fighting are mostly Arabs, but we are going to see soon the important part non-Arabs played. Uh, and then we'll see, because this is important, that what happens to this split of people, because this is a little bit sudden uprising. Ashraf, those tribal leaders, the rich people, the one who are usually not very serious in the support of Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, many of them side with Ibn Muti, but there were some joining Mukhtar. And then uh, let me go faster. Okay. Uh, there are some there are some details of the Mukhtar movement which maybe let me uh, anyway let me for now skip this part, and then we'll come back maybe later on. But as I said, although despite there are not much names of non-Arabs in the fights between two groups, but we are certain, we know that the Mukhtar forces included a significant non-Arab Mawali. Uh, So in part of it, non-Arabs, and this is the new feature. You don't have it in the previous wars, even Sepah Imam Ali or the army of Imam Ali and so on. So Mukhtar is doing that, and then we have to be careful about these mawalis. The word used for the slaves, but this word is means the same word root with valley, two things which are close together. There are it ranks here. Look, there were Iranians or non-Arabs from the big these one mostly Iranians, all Iranians from the beginning of establishment Kufa, which were free because one branch of the army of Iran decided not to fight with the Muslim army and joined Muslim army or accepted Islam. So they become equal and they settled down in Kufa, which about 20% of the original population of Kufa from the beginning. About these were about 5,000 people. Then there is one other thing. Okay, the one we call Mawali, which we kind of consider slave or not free, uh, or ab. These are also okay. Mawali is also used for them too. But also, the other thing is that the structure of the society at that time is tribal. Is a tribal. You have to join a tribe to be able to live in the society. So there is a mechanism to associate people which are not members of the tribe to become tribe. And then you become Mola of the tribe. So many of these Iranians, which are other prisoners of war, maybe whatever, Falahin, they don't do the agriculture, or the free people even, to be part of that society, they have to register, they have to associate themselves, they have to have an alliance, they have to be considered part of connected to a tribe. And then you see many of these are Mawalis like that. And many of them may be freed later. I mean, although it hasn't, I mean, it's passed. At least we have from time of Omar, we have 40, 50 years past. So sometimes second generation are freed. So you have to be careful. The word Mawali is a little bit more complicated. Uh, it could be prisoner of wars, it could be renegades from the time of conquest, their descendants, and all of them. And then Mukhtar has included many of these. That was his new feature. And and then you would see this tension, for example, Shabas ibn Rabi, the one I mentioned his name, attempted to rally his men by accusing them of fleeing from their slaves. So this one to stimulate them, go fight, these were your slaves. And then they say the story Shabas killed a Mawla, but sparing an Arab of Banu Hanifa. These two were part of Mukhtar group. Maybe they captured them, but he killed the non-Arab, but he freed the Arab. So playing the racial card, ethnic card. Or another example, the governor himself, Ibn Muti, warned that if lost the battle, they would have to allow a share in the fate to those who had no right to it. And he told them that he had heard that Mukhtar forces included 500 of your freed slaves, uh, Muharrarikum, the one you have freed. So former slaves, former servants, former abd, under a commander of their own. These stuff, yeah. So there was a special unit. Sometimes also they rumored it, which is mixed, consists of these Mawali, maybe 500 of them, which the commander of their own and the fighting side of Mukhtar. So this is very new, and this is where kind of instigating like these guys, okay, you guys you shouldn't join this. You Arabs, you Ashraf, you shouldn't join Mukhtar. You look, this is a Mawali army. And then what he said, he continued, if they increase in number, it can only mean the passing away of your power, authority, and alteration of your religion. So this is the way you want to keep people in in line. But anyway, they were able to defeat. I have to go faster. They will defeat the governor. The governor escaped. The Shabas ibn Rabi is Ashtar give him some safe conduct and surrendered. The governor escaped from the city and went to Basra. Mukhtar went to the capture the Darul Imara. I showed the first picture just near to the mosque, and then Ashraf and other people have did the bay'ah with him. And then his bayas, again, we said, is the based off the book of God, Son of the Prophet, seeking vengeance for the blood of family, waging jihad against the violators of God's law, and protecting the weak and mutual supports in peace and war. And then let's see one more time what is the situation is. Look, I showed you last time. This is the green one was the part control of Imam Ali, the middle of his caliphate. The red part was the control of Umayyads, after the capture of Egypt and by Amr As and Muawiyah. And then at the time of Mukhtar, the same area, you can see the red part is the control of Umayyads still. They have a futuhat in time of Muawiyah. I'll let you go farther part. And then the parts which we deal with is the green part is the one Mukhtar has a control on it. The green part, and then I'll show you. You put governors for these parts, the green parts. Mukhtar has a control on it. Part of Iran, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Isfahan, and then all the Iraq. Zubair has the control Basra. This is important one. Khuzestan, Iran, and then Hijaz. The Khawarij, this is the group. Khawarij have some control, but Khawarij are more allied with Zubayrids for now, not much with Mukhtar. So Khawarij, rose to some part of Iran and some part of Arabia. And then these latter part are mostly controlled by Zubayrid because historically these latter parts are controlled with Basra. Although, see the map is a little bit relative, but so these control, the blue ones are Zubairis, the red ones are Sufyanids, and the yellow Khawarij, and the green one is Mukhtar. And then we have some battles. We saw the battles last time. Now, the battle which we are interested now today will be a couple of the battles which we need. The biggest battle we are looking today is this battle, which is Ibn Ziyad will be killed. So I'm going a little bit ahead of myself. This is Khazir. And then you see Mosul is very close to Mosul. So we have to see this the battle will win. And kind of the other battle is mostly internal, which I will explain. So Mukhtar has two main battle, which is they won. One is with the Ashraf Kufa, which is in Kufa. One is by the Umayyad army, the killing of Ibn Ziyad. And then they lose the battle with the Zubayrids, kind of in Harura Mazhar. So they lose the battles here. The problem with Basra starts. Basra didn't join to Mukhtar, and Basra first was a little bit neutral, but then it become hostile. We'll see that. And then Mukhtar lost first a battle here, and then coming back here, and then Fortuna Mukhtar lost. So kind of, because I don't want to go back and forth here, so this is a victorious battle, important one, and these are the battles which were not very positive. Okay. So look, Mukhtar start to appoint governors in these all parts. You can see put governor in Armenia, Azerbaijan, Mosul, Madain. Behqobaz is somewhere control of Sassanid in Mesopotamia between the Euphrates and Tigris, and some other cities. Some of the governors, like for example, Muhammad ibn Ash'asir Kendi, this family is very important. His father was in the conspiracy killing of Ali alayhi salam, martyr Imam alayhi salam by Ibn Muljam. His daughter poisoned Imam, his sister poisoned, his sister poisoned Imam Hassan. He's involved in martyr Imam Hussein. Anyway, he's the governor of Mosul, first escaped from Tikrit, from Mukhtar, but then came back to Kufa and submitted to Mukhtar. So Mukhtar establishes himself. And so this is all, but for example, this Bisbek Qubat, so these are all the cities and regions, which I don't think I have time to go with, but he put governors that start to rule. But the point is this, there at some stage, because Mukhtar, sent Ibrahim Ashtar here to Mosul. We have it here to Mosul, which is that big battle of Khazar happened. So Mukhtar started to rule Kufa himself, but he had to control here. Send Ibrahim Ashtar Mosul. In Kufa, there is a rumor that Mukhtar's army has been defeated by Umayyads. So then this Ashraf start to rebel. And then again, this time Shabas ibn Rabi again and Muhammad ibn Ash'as, the guy I said, start to rebel. Mukhtar initially is not a good situation, so he tried to buy time, and then till Ash'as came, and Ashtar came, and when Ashtar came, they were able to defeat these Ashraf. And then is a place called Jabanat Sab. So they defeat this Ashraf, which is internal rebellion. And this is after this time, Mukhtar decided to really go to punishing the perpetrators of the Karbala. And then this is during the time he, captured Ibn Sa'd, Umar ibn Sa'd, captured Shimr ibn Dhi'l-Jawshan, and many other ones. He bring the books because when they did those atrocities in Karbala, they go to Ibn Ziyad and they all recorded in the books. We did this. Please pay us for this. And Mukhtar bring this or say, you said I did this and I got this much money for it. Okay, so this is the document. So I will punish you accordingly. So this is the time that Mukhtar, because a little bit he knows his situation was brutal, dealing with the Ashraf. It was not very established. So, but when the Ashraf internal rebel in Kufa against him, when they defeated them, then he has no other. He was ready to go move against them, and he moved against them. So the victory over the Syrian Ashraf was the opportunity for purge to be carried out in Kufa. As I said, the famous one, Shimr ibn Dhi'l-Jawshan, Sa'd Umar ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas were punished. And also this helped him to be sure of his own house too. All these Ashraf, which have some hand in the atrocities in Karbala, were naturally against him too. And then again, they sent Ashtar back toward Mosul, because he had to call him back, come and help me, and send Ashtar to the Mosul. And then on the way to Mosul, he confronted near the river Khazir, which I showed you, it's the east of Mosul. He confronted Umayyad army, which is Ibn Ziyad was commanding it. And then Ashtar was successful to defeating that army, killing Ibn Ziyad, many other people inside that army. So revenging kind of the Karbala. And then the story says that some of the head of these people which did atrocity in Karbala sent to Medina, I mean, the news sent to Imam Zain al-Abidin, they said, okay, these were killed. And then they say Imam Zain al-Abidin hadn't laughed till that, hadn't smiled or hadn't laughed at that time. And after that, the news came. So all these anecdotal evidence shows somewhat there is support for what Mukhtar has done. And so what says now he's successful? He's successful to putting down the rebellion with the Ashraf. He punished some of those perpetrators or of the people inside Kufa. He's punished some of the Umayyads, defeating the army from Umayyads coming from Damascus. Although that army wants to fight with the Mukhtar and also Zubayris too. Okay, there are some practices ascribed to Mukhtar which should be questionable. The only one I want to mention, because some of these are not, the idea of Mahdi, I'm not sure I'm pretty sure it's not invention of Mukhtar. The idea of his in vogue. They thought, okay, and occasionally we have history of Islam. The fever of Mahdi is there. People assign this is so and so. But the one which I'm not sure how true it is, but again, every textbook said he maybe have done that. Mukhtar was a complicated person. It seems there was a chair, and Mukhtar claimed this was the chair of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And it seems that chair was like a covenant of ark was taken by Mukhtar army with themselves. So they put it in some place and carrying it on a mule, the empty chair with some Mukhtar partisans transported on mule and venerated in the manner we are told of the Israelites and the Ark of Covenant. And then, we are not sure how much this is true and how much the accusation of the other side, because now the other side accusing this is golden calf. First is not worshiping it, but sometimes sacred relic. Is it true? Is it not true? How is the case? because I cannot just say the story not mentioning these are also mentioned. So we have to be sure the story is complicated. Uh, yeah, I kind of one interesting thing about the story of Mukhtar is there are some contemporary Christian writers, Syriac writers, like one of them is called John of Fenwick or Bar Penkaya, wrote something about Mukhtar. It seems that contemporary non-Muslim writer also sees some messianic element in the Mukhtar movement. This element of messianic movement that, Mahdism give very strong power to the movement. Look, I briefly say because look, there was Al-Qaeda and ISIS. ISIS become more successful than Al-Qaeda in some stuff because they did two things. When establishing Caliphate, which Al-Qaeda didn't think they can do it, just they want to do some. But the other thing they did was they considered this themselves as a part of events of end of times, the apocalyptic events. That the first leaders said we are 2-3 leaders before the Mahdi came. They image themselves, ISIS, as part of the movement of end of times. And that gives much more potent power to attraction that people coming joining them. Okay, we are going to be. Look, this comparison puts a negative light, but is the potential of the power of actually. I'm not saying Mukhtar was necessarily like that, but I think I kind of willing to buy that element of Mahdism in it is real, and it's somehow they use the concept of Mahdi and the meaning of Mahdi we use today, a Messiah. Okay, the point is this, but despite the victory of Mukhtar, the downfall of Mukhtar was fast. Part of it is because there was some differences between him and Ashtar. Always is that Ibrahim and Ashtar, there were some differences, separation. And then Ibrahim Ashtar stay in Mosul and kind of left Mukhtar alone. And then the Basran, some of these Ashraf in Kufa, which Mukhtar punished them, some of them like Shabas ibn Rabi, which is survivor, escaped to Basra. And when they escaped to Basra and told the tribes that Mukhtar has punished our Ashraf of Kufa, the Basra and Ashraf also get worried. And the whole environment of Basra changed from neutral to hostile. And then they find a very successful commander, his name is Al-Muhalla ibn Abi Sufra. He was very powerful in fighting the Khawarij, that yellow area. His family become very important from the downfall from now to the downfall of Umayyads. This family of Muhallab in Basra have very important role. They're very prominent family. So unfortunately, his army were able to get the first defeat of Mukhtar army in Al-Mazhar, I showed to you. And this may be late summer of 686. And then Mukhtar had to go back uh, uh, again at the second war in Harura near Kufa. They were very badly defeated. And then Mukhtar has to go refuge to the Dar al-Khilafah. It seems they've survived the siege of Kufa or Dar al-Khilafah a few months. And then, but at some stage, hunger or other stuff or whatever honor, uh, he decided to come out and fight. And then, but he was with some of his supporters. He was martyred. His hand was cut off and hung at the gate of the mosque. One of his wives, who refused to condemn him as an impostor, was executed. Many of his followers were slaughtered by the victorious Ubayd authorities. And returning Ashraf, the most generally accepted date for Mukhtar's death was 14th of Ramazan of 67 or 3 April 6087. But various sources are there. There are still some of his followers in the castle after Mukhtar passed. And then Mus'ab ibn Zubayr, the brother of Zubayr, which was the commander of army, really killing Mukhtar, give them promise of safety. Okay, after Mukhtar was martyred, and they did this stuff. And they accept his promise of safety, but they come out, they slaughter them. And I think one reason they did most of these, maybe non-Arab. I mean, this kind of ethnic racial thing played the card. So they treat them much worse than. Okay, I have to be faster. Okay, there are a few questions I think we should maybe ask. The question of sincerity and motives of Mukhtar is hard because many of his action can have double interpretation always. Sometimes sincere for the sake of religion, sake of revenge, but always have a side which politically astute move to. And then maybe this is a smart guy that calculating correctly, doing the right thing, the right time, that have both advantages, not yeah. So let's put aside the issue of sincerity and motives, which you cannot do it. But there are three main points, which, as I said, this is the first part is that very clearly we have uh, since the establishment of the conquest, since the establishment of Arab rule, the conquest, which Mawali played a very decisive role. So that I mentioned, this is with the secondly, uh, the importance of his movement. So what we are kind of seeing, what is this importance of his movement? This role that non-Arabs. And I said, mostly non-Arabs and Iranis, but not necessarily. We have people called Kabali, so okay, call them Iranians. We have no people from Basra in the time of Imam Ali, with the guardian of the Baytul Mal, the treasury, which are explicitly sent there from Sindh. So we have from Pakistan, from eastern part, Iran, Khorasan, Afghanistan, maybe from Mavar I'm not sure, not Turks, but generally from that area. So these, I think you have to be a little bit more general when we say non-Arab Mawali. Okay, majority Irani from Iran, proper now Iran, but I think you have to be considered more. And historically, those parts were part of Iran too. The point is that that's the first feature. The second link is that what happened after that, the Kaysaniya and the Hashemiyya movement, and the Hashemiyya is not Bani Hashem, is named after the son of Muhammad ibn Hanafiyya, which Abbasid joins this movement, and which was eventually to overthrow the Umayyad Caliphate. And this is long story itself. And the third, it seems, this is the Western scholars say that some of the ideas which we see manifested in the Mukhtar movement become part of the typical Shia Islam, but some of it also appear in the extreme Islam. My opinion is that these ideas, Mahdi, stuff like that, some people claim is invented now. No, it was there. Imam Ali said it, but Mukhtar emphasized on it, manifested. The same way, look, the emphasis about Mahdi 100 and 150 years ago wasn't as much like this. After the revolution in Iran, the emphasis about Mahdi is much more. I mean, these are ebb of flow and stuff. Okay. There are some things about historiography. I don't want to go through that. We don't have time. But let's see. One thing I want to say is about the Shi'i view. This is a big topic. I didn't open it. Needs to really go to the hadiths. But this is a summary of one of the authors, Najam Haidar, which himself is Shi'i Zaidi. I think is accurate. Let's accept this for now. The later 12 Shi'i tradition offers a largely positive depiction of al-Mukhtar, emphasizing his role in avenging al-Hussein's death and ascribing positive assessment of his character actions to the sixth Imam al-Sadiq. So at-Tustari, for example, mentioned. At the same time, it maintains a degree of ambiguity, reflecting perhaps his apparent support of Muhammad ibn Hanafiyyah through the ambivalent statements attributed to Imam Zayn al-Abidin and Imam Ahmed Bagher. It seems some sentences vaguely criticize, or at least must clarify, look, Muhammad Hanafi is not Imam, is not Mahdi, is just a pious son of Imam Ali. Maybe in a longer talk, another talk, it's good to see those hadiths, go through them, but I don't think its time is. As a whole, however, Mukhtar holds a favored place among the contemporary 12 Shia, as reflected in recent Iranian television series titled Mukhtar Nama, which aired to a great popularity in 2010. There is a poem, I want to finish with that. I put the English translation. It seems I couldn't save it. If you let me, I read the English translation from the computer. I like this. So usually it's oh, actually it's on the computer. Sorry. So you guys can see it with me. Uh, it is. So the translation says, under this very dome and this court, upon this very throne and this resting place, I was present. Okay, this is an old man says this verse says, to Abdul Malik Abdul Malik Marwan, the Umayyad Caliph, which captured here. And after Mukhtar was died, his Zubaydi get ruler. Then Abdullah Marwan come and defeat them and kill them. And then this old man come and said and tell the story. Look, at come and say Abdul Malik and say what I've seen this Kufa Darul Imara. Under this very dome and this court, upon this very throne and this resting place, I was present and witnessed Ibn Ziyad. Alas, what I saw my two eyes never see again. He's referring that Ibn Ziyad and the head of Imam Hussein was in front of Ibn Ziyad. A fresh head like the shield of heaven, the sun's face hidden from its countenance. After some time, that bewildered head was carried on a shield before Mukhtar. So then he says, it was Mukhtar was sitting and head Ibn Ziyad was in front of him. And then later, when Mus'ab became head and commander, Mukhtar's head fell victim to him. Now, after that, head of Mukhtar was played in front of Mus'ab ibn Zubayr. So you see 3-4 consequence. Then he telling Abdul Malik, this head of Mus'ab by fate's demand, what more will time do you with you tomorrow? Telling him that, look, you are sitting here now, Mus'ab's head is in front of you, and what future will you? So, indirectly telling him, okay, it may be not very far. It will soon your head maybe be also in front of the next ruler. They say the Abdul Malik asked to destroy that part of the palace. Okay, I stopped. Let me go back to stop sharing, and I'm sorry taking a lot of time. And thank you for your patience.